The wind howled across the frozen expanse of Kelfar 7, an uncharted ice world far from the nearest star system. Ethan Voss pulled his thermal coat tighter, his breath forming misty clouds in the frigid air. His exploration rover was parked a mile back, too bulky to navigate the jagged glaciers. This part of the planet was untouched, a cold and desolate landscape where few dared to venture. Ethan wasn't most people. His curiosity always pushed him further. He adjusted his visor, scanning the terrain for anything unusual. The glaciers glistened under the pale sunlight, their sharp edges casting long shadows. Suddenly, his scanner beeped, a faint energy signature coming from beneath the ice. Strange. Kelfar 7 wasn't supposed to have any signs of advanced life. Ethan knelt, brushing off the snow and revealing a faint glowing light pulsing beneath the surface. "What in the world?" he muttered, pulling out his portable thermal drill. The machine hummed to life, melting the ice layer by layer. As the hole deepened, the light grew brighter, almost alive, casting an eerie blue glow on his face. Then he saw it, an entrance carved into the ice, shaped like an archway, and marked with intricate patterns. The symbols didn't resemble anything he'd seen before, not in all his years of exploration. Ethan hesitated. Protocol dictated he report findings like this to the main ship, but something about the glowing archway pulled him in. Against his better judgment, he stepped closer, his boots crunching on the ice. As he crossed the threshold, the air around him shifted. The cold seemed to retreat, replaced by a strange warmth. The walls glowed softly, lighting a narrow tunnel that spiraled downward. At the end of the tunnel, he entered a massive cavern. Ethan froze in his tracks. The space was unlike anything he'd ever imagined. A glowing city made of crystalline structures spread out before him, shining like a galaxy trapped in the ice. And then he saw them. They emerged from the shadows, their movements graceful yet cautious. Women, or something like women, their bodies shimmering like living glass. Their skin radiated a faint light, and their eyes glowed with an unnatural brilliance. They carried weapons crafted from crystal, their edges sharp enough to cut through steel. Ethan's instincts told him to retreat, but his legs refused to move. One of them stepped forward, taller and more regal than the rest. She tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made him feel exposed. When she finally spoke, her voice echoed in his mind, clear and sharp. "Who are you, traveler? And why have you come to our sanctuary?" Ethan realized with a start that this was no ordinary discovery. This was the beginning of something far greater. Ethan stood frozen as the alien woman studied him with piercing, glowing eyes. Her crystal-like armor refracted the soft light in the cavern, making her seem otherworldly, almost ethereal. She took a step closer, her movements as fluid as melting ice. The other alien women remained still, their weapons glinting in their hands, ready to strike if needed. Ethan's heart pounded, but he knew that making any sudden move could be fatal. I'm Ethan Voss," he managed to say, raising his hand slowly to show he meant no harm. "An explorer from Earth. I didn't know anyone lived here." The alien leader tilted her head as if weighing his words. She was taller than him by at least a foot, her translucent skin glowing faintly under the crystalline light. Her expression was unreadable, but her voice echoed in his mind again, sharp and clear. "Earth. The human world." Her tone carried no emotion, but there was a hint of recognition in her words. "Why have you come to this frozen place, Ethan Voss?" "I'm on a mission to study the planet," Ethan replied, forcing himself to stay calm. "It's uncharted, untouched by anyone, or so we thought." "I didn't mean to intrude." She took another step closer, now just a few feet away. Ethan noticed how her glowing skin pulsed faintly, as though alive with energy. "We are the Chiraltae," she said. "Exiles, survivors of a war that consumed our homeworld. This ice has been our refuge for centuries." Ethan's mind raced. Exiles, a hidden alien tribe on a frozen, barren world. The Chiraltae were far more advanced than they appeared, yet their numbers seemed small. He glanced around, noticing subtle signs of decay in the cavern's crystalline structures. Despite their beauty, the alien city looked old, almost crumbling. As if sensing his thoughts, the leader spoke again. "We are fewer now. The cold shelters us, but it also drains us. Our people are fading." Her voice softened, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through her stern demeanor. "And now, a human stands in our sanctuary. Do you bring hope or ruin?" Ethan hesitated. He didn't know how to answer, but he knew one thing. Whatever had driven the Chiraltae to this icy prison was still out there. Their survival was fragile, and his presence might tip the balance in ways he couldn't yet understand. "I'm not here to harm you," he said firmly. "Maybe I can help." The leader studied him for a long moment, then gave a slight nod. "You speak of help, human, but this world holds dangers you cannot imagine. If you truly wish to aid us, you must prove yourself." Ethan's gut told him this was only the beginning. Whatever challenge awaited, he had stepped into something far larger than himself. Ethan followed the alien leader, Scifi, deeper into the crystalline city. Her stride was smooth and silent, as if she floated above the ice. The other Chiraltae women trailed behind them, their glowing eyes watching him with suspicion. Ethan's steps echoed in the cavern, a reminder that he was the outsider here. The city was breathtaking. Towers of shimmering crystal stretched high into the icy dome, pulsing faintly with energy. Yet, as Ethan looked closer, he saw cracks running along the structures. Some towers leaned dangerously, and faint flickers of light betrayed failing power. The once great sanctuary of the Chiraltae was falling apart. Scifi stopped in front of a massive crystal obelisk embedded in the ground. Its light was dim, and the intricate carvings on its surface seemed worn. She turned to Ethan, her expression unreadable. "This is the heart of frost," she said, her voice echoing in his mind. "It is the source of our power and our life. But it is weakening. Our people cannot survive without it." Ethan stepped closer, examining the obelisk. The carvings looked like a mix of ancient writing and technical schematics. He placed a gloved hand on the surface and felt a faint vibration, like a dying heartbeat. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of it. "Why is it failing?" he asked. Scifi's gaze darkened. "The ice is shifting. The energy flows that sustain the heart have been disrupted. Something beneath the glacier is stirring, and it drains the life from this place." Ethan frowned. "Beneath the glacier? What's down there?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she motioned for him to follow her into a smaller chamber. Inside, walls of crystalline panels displayed glowing images, holographic recordings of a vibrant alien world. It was beautiful, with towering cities and skies filled with swirling colors. Then the images changed. Massive warships descended, raining destruction on the Chiraltae's home. Their people fled to the ice world, seeking safety in its desolation. "Our enemies destroyed our home, but we escaped," Scifi said. "Now the remnants of their power stir below, threatening to consume us once again." Ethan's stomach sank. This wasn't just a failing energy source. It was the remnants of an ancient war, buried beneath the ice and ready to awaken. "I might be able to help," Ethan said cautiously. "Human technology could stabilize the energy flow, maybe even repair the heart." Scifi raised an eyebrow, her glowing eyes narrowing. "Your kind is resourceful, but the Chiraltae do not trust easily. If you wish to help, you must prove your worth. There is no room for failure." Ethan nodded, determination hardening his resolve. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about forging a bridge between two worlds. Ethan stared at the holographic images of destruction, his mind racing. The Chiraltae sanctuary wasn't just failing. It was under threat from an ancient enemy buried beneath the ice. The weight of the revelation pressed heavily on him. Scifi stood silent, her glowing eyes fixed on him, waiting for his response. "You said something is stirring below," Ethan began, his voice steady despite his unease. "What exactly are we dealing with?" Sarakaia turned to one of the crystalline panels, her finger brushing against its surface. A new image appeared. A massive, shadowy figure encased in ice, its glowing tendrils spreading like veins through the glacier. Even as a hologram, the entity radiated menace. "We call it the Trinax," Sarakaia said, her tone grim. "A remnant of the war that destroyed our home. It is a being of energy and malice, designed to enslave and consume. When we fled to this world, we sealed it beneath the ice, using the heart of frost to keep it dormant. But now, the glacier's stability is failing, and the Trinax is awakening." Ethan swallowed hard, his gaze fixed on the image of the monstrous entity. "If it wakes up, what happens?" "It will break free," Sarakaia replied. "And it will not stop with us. It will spread its corruption to your kind as well." The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the cold air. Ethan glanced around at the HFY warriors standing nearby. Their faces were calm, but their glowing eyes betrayed a flicker of fear. They had been guarding this terrible secret for centuries, and now the burden was falling on him. "I need to see the heart of frost again," Ethan said, his voice firm. "If I can stabilize its energy flow, we might be able to keep the Trinax sealed." Sarakaia studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Come with me." They returned to the towering obelisk at the center of the city. Ethan set down his pack and pulled out a set of human tools and devices, his mind already racing through possibilities. The chiral taste technology was far beyond anything he'd seen, but he recognized the principles of energy transfer and stabilization. As he worked, Sarakaia watched closely. "Why do you risk yourself for us, human?" she asked. "Your kind could leave this world and be safe." Ethan paused, looking up at her. "Because it's not just your fight anymore. If humanity found this place and turned away, knowing the danger, what would that make us? Sometimes, helping others is the only way to protect ourselves." Sarakaia's expression softened slightly. "Perhaps there is more to your kind than I thought." As Ethan continued to work, a low rumble echoed through the cavern. The ground beneath them trembled, sending ripples through the icy structures. Sarakaia stiffened, her hand gripping the hilt of her crystalline weapon. "The Trinax stirs," she said, her voice sharp. "Time is running out." Ethan clenched his jaw and quickened his pace. This wasn't just about fixing a machine. It was about saving the world. Ethan tightened the last connection on the diagnostic device he had attached to the heart of frost. The obelisk glimmered faintly, but its pulses were erratic, like the struggling heartbeat of a dying organism. He wiped the frost from his visor and stood back, his mind racing. The chiral taste technology was ancient but intricate, a fusion of energy and crystalline biology far beyond human science. Fixing it would take more than ingenuity. It would take trust. Sarakaia stood nearby, her crystalline weapon resting lightly in her hand. The other HFY warriors remained on the edges of the cavern, their glowing eyes fixed on Ethan. Their expressions were unreadable, but the tension in the air was undeniable. Ethan knew what they were thinking. He was an outsider, a human who had stumbled into their sanctuary at the worst possible time. As Ethan activated the diagnostic scan, a low hum filled the air. The heart of frost began to glow brighter, but the vibrations beneath the ice intensified, sending small cracks spidering across the cavern floor. Sarakaia stepped forward, her voice sharp. "What are you doing, human?" she demanded. "You said you would stabilize it, not make it worse." "I am trying to stabilize it," Ethan replied, keeping his voice steady. "But your system is more damaged than I thought. The energy flow is unstable, and whatever's beneath us is interfering with the heart's functions. I need more time." "Time is a luxury we do not have," Sarakaia said coldly. "The Trinax stirs, and your presence here has only accelerated its awakening." Ethan straightened, meeting her glowing gaze. "If I don't fix this, the Trinax will break free. You said it yourself. It won't just stop with your people. It will come for mine too. So, unless you have a better plan, let me work." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Sarakeya gave a reluctant nod. Very well, human. But know this, if you fail, your life will mean nothing. Ethan suppressed a shiver, unsure if it was from her words or the cold. He turned back to his work, adjusting the energy conduits and redirecting the unstable flow. As he worked, the Kyraltai warriors began murmuring amongst themselves. He caught fragments of their telepathic conversations, doubts and fears about whether this strange human could truly help them. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and a deafening roar echoed from deep below the glacier. Ethan froze, his eyes darting to Sarakeya. "That's not just the ice shifting," he said grimly. Sarakeya's grip tightened on her weapon. "The Trenax is awakening." Ethan felt a surge of determination. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for them all. The cavern trembled violently as a low guttural roar echoed through the icy depths of Calthar 7. Ethan stumbled but caught himself against the heart of frost. The glowing obelisk flickered, its pulses now erratic and weak. He glanced at Sarakeya, who was already shouting orders in her telepathic language. The Kyraltai warriors sprang into action, their crystalline weapons glowing brightly as they formed a defensive circle around the chamber. "That's it, isn't it?" Ethan asked, his voice shaky. "The Trenax." Sarakeya nodded grimly, her glowing eyes locked on the icy floor beneath them. "It stirs. The seal is breaking faster than we anticipated." Ethan's mind raced. The Trenax wasn't just a threat. It was a nightmare made real. If it broke free, it would consume everything in its path, starting with the Kyraltai and ending with humanity. He looked at the heart of frost, its light growing dimmer with every tremor. It was failing, and the energy needed to keep the Trenax contained was slipping away. "What do we do?" Ethan asked, stepping closer to Sarakeya. "If the heart fails." "We fight," she interrupted, her voice firm. "If the heart cannot hold the Trenax, we will face it with everything we have." Ethan could see the determination in her eyes, but he also saw the fear beneath it. The Kyraltai were strong, but their numbers were few, and their ancient weapons might not be enough to stop the monstrosity beneath the ice. He clenched his fists, feeling the weight of the moment. "I can help," he said suddenly. Sarakeya glanced at him, skeptical. "Your technology is primitive. How can you fight what we cannot?" Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady. "You said it yourself. Humans are resourceful. If we combine your biocrystalline tech with the power systems from my rover, we might be able to supercharge the heart. It won't be a permanent fix, but it could buy us the time we need to figure out a plan." Sarakeya hesitated, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nodded. "Do it. But if you fail, human, the blood of my people will be on your hands." Ethan wasted no time. He sprinted back to his rover, which was parked outside the cavern entrance. The ground shook beneath his feet, cracks splitting the ice as the roars grew louder. When he reached the vehicle, he grabbed the portable power core and the energy couplers he had scavenged from his ship. By the time he returned, the cavern was in chaos. Kyraltai warriors were holding their ground, but the tremors were worsening, and the crystalline walls were beginning to crack. "Get out of my way," Ethan shouted, pushing past a line of warriors to reach the heart of frost. He connected the power core to the obelisk, sparks flying as he rerouted the energy. The heart's light flared briefly, then began to stabilize. Sarakeya stepped beside him, her weapon drawn. "The Trenax will not wait long. Whatever you are doing, finish it quickly." Ethan nodded, his hands working furiously. This was no longer just an experiment. It was their only chance to survive. The heart of frost surged with light, glowing brighter than Ethan had seen before. His makeshift modifications were holding, for now. The Kyraltai warriors stood in tense silence as the ground beneath them continued to shake, the roars of the Trenax growing louder. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow, despite the freezing temperature. Every instinct told him they were running out of time. Sarakeya stood beside him, her crystalline armor reflecting the pulsing glow of the heart. Her grip on her weapon was firm, but Ethan could see the strain in her glowing eyes. The Kyraltai leader, so composed and commanding, now carried the weight of her people's survival on her shoulders. "The heart is stabilizing," Ethan said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "But it's not enough to contain the Trinax. We need to amplify the energy output." Sarakaia turned to him, frowning. "How?" "The heart is already at its limit." Ethan's gaze shifted to the Kyraltai's crystalline weapons, their edges shimmering with contained energy. "Your weapons, they're powered by the same technology, right? If we can channel their energy into the heart, it might give us the boost we need." The warriors exchanged uncertain glances, their telepathic murmurs filling the air. Sarakaia raised a hand, silencing them. She looked at Ethan, her expression hard. "If we do this, it will leave us defenseless." Ethan met her gaze, his voice firm. "If we don't, there won't be anything left to defend." Sarakaia studied him for a moment before nodding. She turned to her warriors, her voice ringing in their minds. "Lay down your weapons. Channel their power into the heart. Trust this human." There was a brief hesitation, but one by one, the Kyraltai warriors stepped forward, placing their weapons against the obelisk. Ethan quickly connected energy couplers to each weapon, linking them to the heart's core. As the weapons discharged their energy, the obelisk flared with blinding light, sending ripples of power through the cavern. The ground beneath them shook violently, and a deafening roar erupted from the depths. Ethan's heart sank as the ice cracked open, revealing the massive, writhing form of the Trinax. Its tendrils of energy lashed out, shattering crystalline structures and sending shards flying. "Hold the line," Sarakaia shouted, stepping in front of her people. Ethan worked frantically, rerouting the amplified energy to reinforce the heart's seal. The Trinax screamed, its massive form thrashing against the icy prison that had held it for centuries. With a final surge of power, the heart released a blinding wave of energy, forcing the Trinax back into the depths. When the light faded, the cavern was silent. The heart of frost pulsed steadily once more, its glow stronger than ever. Sarakaia turned to Ethan, her voice filled with both relief and awe. "You did it, human." Ethan shook his head, exhausted but determined. "We did it. Together." The heart of frost pulsed brightly, its light casting a cold brilliance across the cavern. For a brief moment, Ethan allowed himself to believe they had succeeded. But the ice trembled again, and the Trinax's roar tore through the air. The beast wasn't sealed. It was fighting back with more ferocity than before. Ethan's stomach twisted. "It's not over," he muttered, gripping the edge of the obelisk for support. The ground cracked beneath him, and tendrils of energy erupted from the fissures, lashing out like living lightning. Sarakaia stood tall, her armor shimmering as she turned to her warriors. "Defend the heart," she commanded, her voice clear and sharp. "If it falls, we fall." The Kyraltai warriors sprang into action, their movements graceful and coordinated despite their lack of weapons. Using shields crafted from crystalline energy, they deflected the Trinax's attacks, protecting both the heart and Ethan as he worked. "Ethan," Sarakaia shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "What else can we do? The heart won't hold for long." Ethan's mind raced. He had pushed the heart of frost to its limit, but it wasn't enough to contain the Trinax's raw power. Then he remembered the power core from his rover, still connected to the obelisk. It was an unstable energy source, but if he overloaded it, it could create a massive surge, enough to either seal the Trinax permanently or destroy everything. "There's one more thing we can try," he called out, "but it's risky." "Do it," Sarakaia replied without hesitation. "We will buy you the time you need." Ethan nodded, his hands trembling as he began rerouting the power core. Sparks flew as he bypassed the safety protocols, the energy couplers humming with increasing intensity. The ground beneath him shook violently, and chunks of ice rained down from the cavern ceiling. The Trinax's massive form loomed closer, its glowing tendrils clawing at the heart's energy field. Scifi leaped into action, leading her warriors in a counterattack. Using the energy shields, they deflected the Trinax's strikes, their glowing forms moving like a single fluid entity. Despite their strength, Ethan could see the strain on their faces. They couldn't hold out forever. Almost there, Ethan shouted, his voice drowned out by the roar of the Trinax. With a final adjustment, he activated the power surge. The Heart of Frost blazed with a blinding light, its energy rippling outward in a shockwave that engulfed the entire cavern. The Trinax screamed, its massive body writhing as the energy forced it back into the depths. The ground sealed shut, and the tremors stopped. Silence fell, broken only by the steady hum of the heart. Ethan collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. Scifi approached, her crystalline armor scratched and cracked, but her posture unbroken. She offered him a hand. "You risked everything for us," she said, her voice softer now. "You have proven yourself, Ethan Voss." Ethan took her hand and stood. "We weren't just fighting for your people. This was about all of us." The Kyraltai warriors lowered their shields, their glowing eyes fixed on the human who had become their unexpected ally. Together, they had stopped a monster, but the cost of their fragile alliance was only just beginning to unfold. The cavern was eerily quiet now, the echoes of battle fading into the crystalline stillness. The Heart of Frost pulsed steadily, its glow restored to its former brilliance. Ethan stood beside Scifi, exhaustion pulling at his body, but a deep sense of relief washed over him. The Trinax was sealed once more, its monstrous power buried beneath the ice. The Kyraltai warriors gathered in a circle, their luminous eyes fixed on Ethan. Their crystalline armor was chipped, their faces showing the toll of the fight. But there was something new in their expressions: respect. The human who had been a stranger and an outsider only days ago had stood with them and helped secure their survival. Scifi stepped forward, her regal presence commanding attention even in the aftermath of the battle. "Ethan Voss," she began, her voice carrying both strength and gratitude. "You have done what we thought impossible. You not only saved the heart, but also showed us that trust is not weakness. We owe you more than words can convey." Ethan felt a lump in his throat, but managed a small smile. "I didn't do it alone. Without you and your people, this would have been impossible. We made this happen together." Scifi nodded, her expression softening. "Together, a concept my people have forgotten in our long isolation." The Kyraltai city, though still cracked and worn, seemed brighter now. The energy from the heart flowed through its crystalline towers, and the faint hum of life returned to the air. But Ethan knew their problems weren't fully solved. The Trinax was sealed, yes, but the Kyraltai's survival depended on more than just the Heart of Frost. Their dwindling numbers and isolation left them vulnerable, and Ethan couldn't ignore the potential for humanity's help. "You can't stay hidden forever," Ethan said gently, looking at Scifi. "Your people are strong, but this planet is unforgiving. If the Trinax stirs again, you'll need more than just the heart to protect yourselves." Scifi tilted her head, considering his words. "What do you propose, human?" Ethan hesitated, then said, "An alliance. My people have the technology and resources to help stabilize your city and ensure the Trinax remains sealed. In return, we could learn from your crystalline tech, your people's knowledge. Together, we can prepare for whatever comes next." The Kyraltai warriors exchanged uncertain glances, but Scifi raised a hand to silence them. Her glowing eyes met Ethan's, and she gave a small, approving nod. "It is a bold offer," she said, a hint of a smile on her lips. "But boldness has brought us this far. We will consider your proposal, Ethan Voss." As the light of the heart bathed the cavern in a soft glow, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. What had begun as an accidental discovery had grown into something far greater, a fragile but promising bridge between two worlds. Together, they would face the unknown, stronger as allies than they ever could be alone.